What we try and do is I say, listen, this is my bias. This is what I believe.
What's your bias?
Well, my bias, like you said, I'm right wing. I'm conservative.
If you had to if you go, God, maybe I went too far down this road. If I could just relax one aspect of my dialogue, what would it be? Maybe it would be my pipe smoking.
Your pipe smoking? I probably wouldn't talk about the marijuana issue. I wouldn't care. Because here's the thing. I don't care about it.
One way or the other?
But my issue with it is when, and we saw this in Montreal, I talked about it when people lie about it and they're dishonest with their voting constituency.
Like how so?
Well, saying, it's medicine for A, B, C, or D. It may be medicine for A, but not for B, C, or D.
Well, what are the B, C's, and D's?
Well,
what are the things that's not medicine
an example.
for?
Well, you're asking me what I wouldn't talk about, and you're asking me to defend it. My point is, I don't really care about it.
But what are the B, C's, and D? What you said
it cures
specific.
Cancer.
Well, there has been shown
it helps with cancer about as much as turmeric and ginger. Those things
all
help
those
with
anti-inflammatory
cancer.
things.
Yeah, I know, but it's not a prescription.
But CBD has been shown to have
seizures.
tremendous benefits for cancer.
Hold on, Joe. How you ask him things that he wouldn't talk about and then force him to talk about it? This is about to get interesting. And shout out to one of my favorite supporters, Sarah O. I appreciate you. She responded on the loyalty emails. I asked about the word loyalty, and she responded with the shot. I believe she was number 3. She was my 3rd email out of the hundreds of emails I received. So shout out to her. And she mentioned this one right here. That's why we're checking it out.
And non-psychoactive.
Yeah, and certainly with seizures. I have zero problem with CBD being legalized. But my issue
is also
I'll
cannabis.
have to, I feel the need to call people out when they say, well, the reason it's not is because of big pharmaceutical companies. Go, hold on a second. There's 7 patents on chemical compounds for marijuana right now.
Right.
The people who stand to make the most out of marijuana legalization are pharmaceutical companies. That's why they make.
That's not true.
Well, it is. If you look at the biggest supplement companies, it's owned by the same pharmaceutical companies.
But you can't patent
and the
a
one
plant.
Yes, you can. They've patented seven at
you
least.
You can patent strains that are GMOs.
Chemicals. No. 7 active chemical compounds in pot that have been patented as drugs. They've gone through the process.
Yeah,
There's
but
one
you
that's
can't
really
patent
efficient.
it to the point where you can't grow pot. How would you stop someone if pot's legal? If pot's legal, how would anyone? And if that's the truth, then that's a real problem.
If pot is recognized as a medicine, right? If pot is recognized, there is no one who would stand to gain more than pharmaceutical companies by providing it as medicine.
That's not necessarily true if people are allowed to grow it themselves.
Maybe it's not necessarily true. I'll give you that. But I also think it's not necessarily true that the reason people can't smoke up is because Big Pharma is sitting somewhere, Martin Shkreli going, oh, let's make pot illegal.
Well, not that
That's
guy.
my only point.
But
so far, I just want y'all to know, so far, I'm glad that I'm actually glad that Joe Rogan got Steven Crowder to start talking about this. But I'm on Steven Crowder's side so far. Although I also enjoy weed. I love weed. Not, well, I don't love it, but I like it. I definitely like it. You know what I mean? When I worked for the federal government, I couldn't indulge. Now I do not work for the federal government, and I can, unless I want to purchase a weapon or gun. But that's why Steven Crowder has an issue with it as well. So hopefully he brings that up, because you are not legally, technically supposed to purchase firearms. If you fill out the form, it's actually on there. I don't know if it's the 14th question, but it's on there. It's on there.
There are absolutely people who have lobbied, as we talked about how the prison guard union has lobbied to keep marijuana illegal. There's absolutely pharmaceutical companies have done the same thing. It was revealed in the WikiLeaks memos.
See, this is where I was saying don't care about
don't
this.
interrupt me. Where Hillary Clinton said that she's...
Hold on, don't interrupt me, you... Okay, all right, it's getting crazy. See, Sarah, thank you, Sarah. Oh.
Against marijuana in every sense of the word, right? You remember those WikiLeaks papers that came out?
Yeah.
Is he? He said he would leave it up to the states.
Yeah.
That's actually a constitutional approach.
But he wants to beef up the war on drugs.
You know why? I bet someone slipped him a pot cookie once and he looked at his hair in the mirror. And
no, he doesn't drink, Donald Trump. It's crazy.
Yeah. Ever?
No, he says he claims he's never had a
Colorado
drop.
topped $1 billion in legal marijuana sales in 2016.
Good.
Holla.
Yeah.
Holla at Colorado.
Yeah. But another thing that we just wrote about, and again, people get mad with the weed issue. Well, no. Traffic fatalities regarding marijuana have skyrocketed.
Google that because that's nonsense.
No,
you
we
know,
wrote about it
drunk driving arrests have dropped. What do you mean you've? First of all,
we wrote about what the sources
first of
are,
all,
the original studies.
Just because someone gets in an accident and they're high, hold on, stop.
No, hold on a second. This is
you
because
interrupt way too much.
No,
you need to stop.
You talk
hold
in
on
paragraphs.
A second. No. I don't talk in paragraphs. I make full points. If people are high a lot and the same amount of fatalities exist, but the people that get checked once they get into these accidents happen to be high, it does not necessarily mean that marijuana caused those fatalities. It could be that you have an increased incidence of people doing marijuana and altercations that could not have been avoided.
It could be.
That's true. That's a good take, man. I would love to hear Steven Crowder's take.
Could be.
But the statistical change is measurable.
Well, what is
from
it?
Pre and
You're
post.
talking about in Colorado.
In states where it's been decriminalized
Let's
or legalized.
go with Colorado. Pull it up, Jamie.
Hold on a second. You just said, let me make my point. Again, my point is I don't care about it.
Yeah, you do.
No, I really don't.
You don't care about people dying? You son of a...
about it because someone says, you know what, if people want to smoke up, fine. I just don't really buy the arguments that everyone is in some big conspiracy to try and snuff it out.
No, there are some.
And the idea that the drug war will end, and the idea that it cures cancer. I just don't buy that, and people get so upset.
Well, listen.
That's my only point. That's why I wouldn't talk about
studies
it.
have proven that it shrinks tumors, that it helps people with cancer, much like turmeric, much like any things that reduce inflammation, including
turmeric,
CBD
ginger,
oil.
tart cherry.
Right, but it's not necessarily
fighting for
a
those
magical.
to be.
They're all legal. And there's no issue because they're not psychoactive.
Right.
But they are beneficial. So all these things are good.
Okay, so they're all legal, but they're not psychoactive. That's why he's not comparing it to marijuana. Well, Joe Rogan is letting them know that the same thing that's in marijuana does the same job as those, but marijuana just so happens to be psychoactive. That's the only difference. Feel free to correct me if I am wrong.
Marijuana is one of the things that are good. And don't shore, man. Just like you don't shore turmeric, you don't shore ginger, you don't shore a reduced sugar diet. All those things that reduce inflammation are good for you.
I don't buy that smoking marijuana would be as beneficial as a reduced sugar diet. And my point is that people get so offended by me saying that and saying, but if you want to smoke, go ahead.
You might be correct.
Shouldn't be offensive.
But it doesn't matter because it's not to see what's the most beneficial. The question is it beneficial and is it damaging?
That is a good point. I know a lot of you are on Steven Crowder's side with this so far. I'm on both. They both are making good points. But this right here is an actual good point from Joe Rogan. If it's not, feel free to correct me in the comments. I would love to see it. But I believe that it's not a contest to see which one is most beneficial. It's not. So, yeah. Ooh, this is a good conversation.
It does matter. The fact
damaging?
That you said, no, let me finish my point. It does matter. You said, what would you not talk about? I said, probably pot because I don't care. Well, what do you think about it?
You definitely care. That's
this
why you're
is what
arguing
I think
with me about it.
And your eyes light up. And all of a sudden, where
cares.
ideology and worldviews
like
shouldn't be discussed.
No, you're
going to laser me like a tractor beam on the most important issue of the day that I said, I don't care.
You're the guy that thinks people should be able to do whatever. You're a free market guy,
that's
right?
what I just said.
So if you're a free market guy, why wouldn't you be in support of something, whether it's the most beneficial or equally beneficial?
Just said I am.
But you're not necessarily because you're denying.
But because right now of the chemical compound.
You're denying.
Did he say hold on face? Yo. Yeah, this is wild. And Steven Crowder, just tell him the reason. The reason is for guns. Just say it. I believe that's your reason, but I need for you to say it. I think that's your reason, but I need for you to say it. Please don't try to paint it out to be no holier than thou type of situation or no Christianity type of situation. It's for guns. It's for guns. And you cannot legally say that you smoked that crap while filling out that form to purchase a gun. And Steven Crowder is big on the Second Amendment. That's the thing. That's the disconnect right there. And Joe is trying to bait him into that conversation, but Steven Crowder will not give him the satisfaction. That's what I believe is happening right now.
Come on. It's been a good conversation.
We're friends. I'm just joking. Since marijuana legalization, highway fatalities in Colorado are at near historic lows.
You haven't bringing up the source that you want to find.
Washington
Bring
Post.
up the study right there. Yeah, Washington Post. Bring up the study that we wrote. We wrote about it on our website.
Look, I don't care about your website, you since marijuana legalization, highway fatalities in Colorado
Since you
are
called me
at
hold on a second. Since you called me, hold on a second. Since you called me, you do this with the crazy lady at a comedy club.
Buddy, I
you
like
think if
you.
you scream enough that it makes a point. My point is, I don't care about it.
I don't think that if we
Smoke
scream
up.
enough,
and you just said I was interrupting. You're interrupting now and screaming.
Because
I don't
Jamie
care about it
put
enough.
up a post, and you're not.
But I don't buy
ignoring
that
it.
it's as valuable as a low sugar diet. And the fact
doesn't have to
the
be
fact
as
that
valuable.
you can't have a conversation about this as civilly as you did every other issue tells me that there's there's a problem. This is a TNT powder keg.
I can.
This
the problem
issue
is.
with pot.
The issue is, and Joe Rogan will not admit it, just like Steven Crowder will not tell him that the reason why he stand by this, he has the stance he has so vehemently is because of the gun issue. All right, and Joe Rogan will not tell him that the reason why I'm so high energy right now when it comes to this topic is because I feel like you're attacking me personally, because you know, for instance, that I smoke a lot of weed on this show. But Steven Crowder, if you look at his face right now, if you would have looked at his face while Joe Rogan was first asking him the question, you would have noticed that Steven Crowder got like this light bulb, like, oh man, I'm about to mess with him. I'm about to mess with him and make him think that it's his fault. What Steven Crowder is doing is called gaslighting. I don't know if y'all know this, but Joe Rogan is also doing it because he feels attacked. Joe Rogan feels attacked because I'm believing that's some type of insecurity that he has, because he feel like he has a right to do it. But when it comes to Steven Crowder, he feels judged, and he want to put it out there. And I believe Joe Rogan kind of knew that Steven Crowder was going to bring it up, but Steven Crowder brought it up right while looking at Joe Rogan lighting that pipe that he was lighting. So this is interesting. They both wanted this conversation. So I'm glad that they're having it.
Get very defensive when people start talking over me, and you started it first. But the reality is that a low sugar diet is fine.
Sure,
it's good too. Why is there a competition between a low sugar diet and turmeric and marijuana and CBD oil? Why? Why does it even have to be discussed?
Because one is making the claim regarding legality that it cures cancer.
Because
my
the
only
other
point is I
ones
don't
are
believe
legal.
it. No, my only point is
because the other ones are already legal. They don't have to fight for it.
Yeah, but no one's prescribing. No one's dishing out dispensaries for turmeric or ginger.
They certainly are. If you go to these local juice shops.
Anyway,
you go to these juice shops. People are promoting ginger like crazy, turmeric like crazy.
I
go online.
Couldn't care less people want to smoke joints.
You're an ideologue, buddy.
Really? That's an ideologue position by saying leave it to the states?
Yeah, you're locked in, man.
Really?
You're locked deep into this red
How
state
so?
thing, man.
I was raised in a socialist province of Quebec.
Your bread is buttered, buddy.
A socialist province.
And meanwhile, you're over here in America, just as much of an immigrant as some dude who sneaks over the wall Trump just built.
I was born in Detroit, so that remains to be seen. It could be annexed.
See, Joe Rogan is messing with him now. This is hilarious. Yo, this is hilarious. I'm sorry. This is absolutely hilarious. I don't care what you say, man. I'm enjoying this right now because it's that freaking funny, man. It's that funny. Joe Rogan knows he's messing with. He said, you're tied into this red state, America's. I know this is getting on some of y'all nerves, but this right here is highly entertaining to me.
It's a horrible place. It's a horrible Detroit.
Have you seen that thing where there's a guy who is making an urban farm in Detroit?
Oh, that's very common in Detroit now.
Well, he's got the largest urban farm, and he's bought up all this land. And as he's bought up all this land, he's taking these like dilapidated houses. They tear them down. He's building his farm, really cheap land, and people are getting pissed off at him. They're getting pissed off because this one guy now buys all this land. They're like, well, what about us?
Yeah.
And there's this weird thing that's going on where people somehow or another are mad at this guy who's trying to do something positive.
If I'm not mistaken on that story, I could be wrong, but urban farming was we wrote about that when we did this report in Detroit. I was telling actually Jamie about it beforehand. We did a real-time ride-along because people said we selectively edited the worst parts of Detroit. So I went back with my producer, Not Gay Jared. We said, okay, we're going to start dead center downtown Detroit where all the hipsters drink their coffee and talk about how it's being revived. We will drive out in 3 different directions. We put a GoPro on top of the car, GoPro in the car, a mileage tab, and a timer clock. And it never took more than about I think, 0.9 miles out of the city to certain death, an unbelievable urban plight. The crazy thing about Detroit is you'll see downtown Detroit, and then you look to the left, and it looks like the Upper Peninsula. There's nothing there. It's so desolate. And if I'm not mistaken with that story, everyone was doing urban farming, but there were some problems with the soil. And so there was a guy who probably found out he could make money if he improved the soil, and he got it down to a system that was more efficient. And people didn't like that aspect of it because now it's the big urban farmer, right? And they're always...
Well, it's a wealthy guy who bought up a lot of land.
Right.
And he's a white guy, and he bought it up in this, really urban area. And, the buildings were all and somehow or another people felt like somebody was encroaching in their neighborhood that they had watched deteriorate.
There's no one there. There's no one there in those neighborhoods.
There's some people who are there, but the point is they felt like that should have been somehow or another a part of their world, which is weird. It's weird to think that you deserve something because that's where you live. I think, like we were talking earlier about Uber and all these things, change is a real part of being an organism that lives on a planet.
Right.
And whether it's change because of nature, like the shoreline changes, the ocean rises, tsunamis hit the coast, earthquakes change the landscape, volcanoes, whether it's that kind of change or whether it's economic change or whether it's technological change, there's going to be change.
Yeah.
And if you're trying to stop change, you're on the wrong side of history. It's not going to work. You're going to try, and it's eventually going to overcome you.
Yeah. I think, my view is you should allow people to be the change they seek, as Barack Obama put it, and shouldn't try to force change.
But if you live some dude wants to break down the terrible houses and build a farm, that's not necessarily a bad idea.
No, it's not at all.
Yeah.
I mean, they have, when we did our video in Detroit, packs of wild dogs roaming the streets in Detroit.
Oh, that's real. Yeah, that's real.
Yeah.
That's real.
And we got fact-checked on it because we did a video on this where we said, packs of... And then I made a joke where I said, apparently there have been grizzly bear sightings, so hopefully this will be our next National Geographic special.
There's been black bear sightings.
Right, but I got fact-checked. I don't know if it was back then. I don't remember if it was Snopes or something. Someone saying, Steven Crowder made the claim that grizzly bears were in Detroit. Fact check reveals that only black bears have been in the action. And I was sitting there like...
Well, you should fact check them because black bears are more likely to be predatory on human beings than grizzly bears.
Is that just because of more common interactions, though, statistically?
You're very smart. You're right. That's right.
Kind of like sharks. It occurs in 3 to 4 feet of water. That's where people are swimming.
Exactly. But that is the case with grizzly bears are way more aggressive.
Yeah.
But they don't necessarily associate human beings with food.
Are you supposed to play dead or run with a grizzly bear? You would know that probably.
It depends entirely on why the grizzly bear is attacking you. The reality is, if a grizzly bear is attacking you because she's with her cubs, you're better off playing dead. You're better off covering up, protecting your vitals, getting in the turtle position, and taking your beatings.
And kiss your ass goodbye.
She might leave you alone if you just lay still, and then she feels like she can run away. She's gonna or what? She's gonna incapacitate you. But if an old male or a predatory male that has killed another human being and recognizes human beings as food, that has happened before, where hikers have disappeared. And hikers disappear all the time to the tune of hundreds of people every year just vanish.
I read that...
What? Now I'm mad at Chris Rice. Chris, what the hell, bruh? You asked me to go hiking with you a few times. And I told my wife, I said, I ain't going hiking. He said he's going to be walking for like 10 miles or something like that. And we're going to be walking up the daggone hill. And then we got to worry about bears? Come on, bruh. It's already crazy. I ain't have no white friends. You would have been my first. Well, you would have been my first that I went hiking with. Nah, I'm glad I didn't go hiking because they talking about people are going missing by the hundreds. You out your daggone mind. Huh? And they stopped talking about the marijuana. I thought they was going to talk more about the marijuana. They stopped that. And they went into the herbal farm and all that other stuff. Maybe they're going to get back into it, but this is a 4-hour long podcast, conversations between these guys. How can you like someone that much where you sit down and you talk for that long? How can you be that prepared? Sheesh. But these guys are extremely intelligent. Both of them are awesome, in my opinion. I didn't like Steven Crowder at first. I didn't understand Joe Rogan at first because I didn't listen to Joe Rogan. Only knew him from mixed martial arts, and I didn't know that I didn't know he did comedy, but I did know that he did a couple of movies before. I believe. I might be tripping. Steven Crowder, I was introduced to him on YouTube, and I didn't know that he was a comedian or that he was this super, right-wing guy who got out there on the streets and talked to people about real issues. And he got on my nerves before. But now, both of these guys are super cool, man. That's what happens when you give people a chance that you don't particularly understand or know anything about beforehand. All right? Love y'all.